All right, so lesson 3, let's dive more into sexual propagation. So, unlike reproduction, where plants do it on their own, propagation is where humans intervene. So, that's like if you're, planting a garden and you're planting seeds, you're propagating. Sexual propagation is for many types of plants the most common type of propagation, and that's going to start with the fertilization process. So, in the lab or garden, pollen must meet the ovule for the seed to form. This happens naturally, but it can also be done manually. Pollination, people, you can hand pollinate or you can rely on it naturally. To hand pollinate, you just collect pollen from another plant and you deposit it into the ovule of another. This allows gardeners, growers, and plant scientists to create hybrids. And that's where they blend different types of plants. And you may see, like this spring, as you start seeing plant stores and nurseries come out with their plants on the back, you may see it says hybrid. That means that plant, they took two different species and they made a new one. Depending on the plant, the second generation might be infertile or incapable of producing seed. In this case, each generation of seeds created by breeding the two plants. So the hybrid, typically, they can't reproduce itself, so they have to keep making these new hybrids. So most of them are infertile. If you get one that is fertile, like, for example, a tree often used for landscaping has been classified as an invasive species in many states now. The Bradford pear. Okay, this is one. It's kind of like a fruitless pear. You probably see. I'm sure you've probably seen one of these trees. Let's see. So here's the Bradford pear tree. Okay, you've probably seen one of these. They are very common, and they've sort of gotten invasive. So the Bradford pear, it was supposed to be sterile. It's changed because natural hybridization and the interaction of rootstock and scion, and it's become a nuisance. So nature always wins. So these sterile plants have adapted to become fertile. Spread of these trees poses a risk to native plants and significant cost for conservation departments and homeowners. So it's not always a good thing if these hybrid plants start trying to reproduce on their own. Hybrid plants are preferred in commercial growing operations and by many home gardeners. They can be vigorous, they grow well and produce well. So a lot of like vegetables and seeds that they're going to grow. Hybrids typically cost more than those that are naturally pollinated or open pollinated. Seeds can be created through sexual reproduction or through sexual propagation. They're produced from the ovule. Remember, on our parts is fertilized by the pollen. Seeds are going to have 3 parts. They have the outer seed coat that protects the seed. So like in a sunflower seed, the outer seed coat is the sunflower seed shell. They're not always that hard. The endosperm, which is the next layer that provides a food source. So that's what that embryo is going to eat. The embryo, which is the very center, the most protective part that grows into the plant. It's very strong. It's a very young plant in a state of suspended development. So it's waiting on moisture. It's waiting on sunlight to grow. So whenever you plant a seed, if you've ever done like hanging the bean seed on a window with paper towel, you see kind of that green come out of the seed. That's that embryo emerging. So today, most seeds are produced by commercial seed operations. There are large companies that all they do is they develop seed and they sell and purchase seed. I know a lot of people that what they do is they are sellers of seed, mainly to farmers. So commercially available seeds are most often hybrids or intentionally pollinated. In majority of cases, seed crops are grown using protected cropping to preserve the quality. You can expect 65 to 80% of the seeds to produce plants, and only 75% of those grow into healthy, strong plants. Okay, so we don't have a 100% success rate because you've got a lot of variables that you have to deal with. Most companies and many hard gardeners of small purchases of small farmers purchase new seed every year because seeds can be kept for several years, especially like some if you put them in the freezer, things like that. But seeds are typically cheap, and just to better your odds, you want to buy fresh. So growing plants from seed, there's 4 factors: water, light, oxygen, and heat. They need water to germinate. Germinates whenever they're going to come out of the ground. They need light. Some plants don't need a bunch of light. Some need a ton of sunlight. It's just going to depend on the plant. Some plants prefer dark. Okay, oxygen. Respiration takes place in all seeds. They all require access to oxygen, both before and during germination. And heat. Okay, seeds need favorable temperatures. Majority of plants are going to germinate between 65 and 75 degrees. You can, they've got like heating mats. You can put a heat lamp, all kinds of things. Whenever you're germinating seeds, do it in a greenhouse. Or if you're doing it in a garden, follow your zone, follow the map, and just plant it whenever the conditions are great. So there are some new little plants that are seedlings starting indoors. Okay, so seeds, scarification. Seeds are dormant until they germinate. So seeds are just there ready for all the conditions until they start. So they're not going to just randomly start growing out of nowhere. So it's hard to break the dormancy for a lot of seeds, especially like trees and shrubs. They're kind of hard to grow from seed. These seeds may need to be prepared to allow it to absorb water and begin to grow. So there's little ways you can do this. They can be mechanically scarified with a file hammer or sandpaper. So sometimes we're having to like take the seed coat off. You can soak it in a bath of acid to soften the seed coat. They can be placed in very hot water and left as the water cools for 12 to 24 hours to soften, or they're stored in a warm, moist environment for several months to decay the seed coat. So why a lot of people are going to just buy their shrubs and trees that are already grown. All right. So that's lesson 3, sexual propagation. Next, we'll go to lesson 4.